Welcome to the Your Message Received podcast. And now, taking your message to the finish line, your host, John Duffin.
Hey folks, John Duffin here with Duffin Media. Welcome back to another episode of Your Message Received. Your Message Received is the home, the place, the platform to help you find your most true, authentic business voice. Heck, maybe you're just true, authentic voice. Get what you want, find what you need, improve your results, make billions of dollars, meet the person of your dreams. That's why we have today's guest on. He promises that he's going to help us all make billions of dollars by the end of this episode. We can't guarantee it, but we're certainly heading in that direction. One of the reasons I feel so confident about the ability to be able to successfully share others' arc to authenticity is I get to bring people on who walk the walk. Today is absolutely no exception. I'm so happy to bring on my friend, business leader, CMO, global traveler. So we talk success in multiple countries with multiple industries. And I got to hang out with him in New York, Miami, and that's it so far. But definitely looking at Europe at some point soon. Marcelo Salup, welcome to the show, man.
John, it's a real pleasure. What can I tell you? I mean, like, I feel great just from the intro. I mean, like, I feel like a real person. So,
well, you are a real person, man.
Really, thank you very, very, very much. We've been friends now for I don't know how long. We've known each other for I don't even know how long.
I was doing the math, man. In my mind, that's a really common thing. So I remember. So the first time I met my friend Marcelo was in New York, and in a advertising agency's big Mambo conference room. Best way I could describe it. Just some big, oversized Manhattan conference room with about 17 people. And that was just the people I brought. And this really engaging person that took all the pressure off of what was this big, important meeting that we were attending. And I'm thinking it was at McCann. I'm thinking it was there.
No, I think it was Siboney Food Corner Building.
Oh, okay, yeah. Thank you.
In the New York office.
Oh, 100%, yeah. And I just remember this really engaging, easy to speak with personality and made me feel a million times more comfortable, at ease, and included just by showing up. I'm going to ask you because it's your business chops are legendary. Not just the ad agencies that you've worked, but the clients that you've helped. Crazy to me. What got you into the field?
That is one of those questions, man, that takes me back to 1974, something like that.
Nice.
I went into architecture because my dad was an architect. And I love some of the aspects of it. But in general, architecture in Spain, I was studying in Spain in the Complutense in Madrid. Architecture in Spain was not really well taught. It wasn't. It was awful. So, into it, I was thinking, I can't stay here. I hate this place. So I went out. I went out 3 days with my best friend, Mike. And we went camping in the mountains of Navacerrada for 3 days. And then I started studying, what do I like? What do I like? And then I like people. I really do. I did my thesis on brainwashing and attitude change. So I'm very interested in how people make decisions. It's one of those things, right? So, and then I said, advertising sounds great, but I didn't know anything about advertising except I had seen some really cool ads. And the one that I most remember, by the way, is plain background, an apple, a key stuck into the Apple, the Alfa Romeo logo hanging from it, and then it said temptation. And I figured that's pretty cool. Now I own an Alfa, and
See?
it's we have rounded the circle. But that's what got me in. And then once I was in advertising,
Mm-hmm.
I fell in love with it. I absolutely, and I came into advertising from professional photography. When I was like 20, get this. This is
Mm-hmm.
not really, I mean, this is not the most positive thing you've heard of me, but I come from a wealthy background. Not that I inherited any money, I didn't at all,
Yeah, but
but
nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? Like,
we were there. So one day I met this Japanese guy in the
mm-hmm.
university, and he was starving, literally starving.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a Nikon, and the Nikon had three lenses, a 28, a 50, and I think it was a 90 or a 105 or something like that. It was the classic something or other portrait lens from Nikon. And he was dying. He needed money. And so I called I called my dad's chauffeur. I didn't dare
Mm-hmm.
call my dad. And I said, Oye, Joaquin, so I need $300. Oh my God, what kind of trouble have you gotten into? The cops, whatever. I said, no, no, no,
Mm-hmm.
no. Just tell my dad I need $300. I'll pay him back. So he comes over. Remember, in those days, there was no cell phone. So I call him up. He comes over, gives me the $300. I go to the guy. I get the $300. I buy the Nikon, the three lenses. Then I have some friends who invited me to a Formula One race, but on the inside, what they call the pelouse, which is the inside of the track where all the garages are and all of
Oh,
that.
right, right,
So
right.
it's
Now you
like
have your camera.
everybody sits on the outside. We were on the inside.
I got you. Wow.
And because of who we were, we
Mm-hmm.
got access all over. And also, honestly, the security measures in those days were like a rail. That's it. So I took a picture of Graham Hill, who was world
Mm-hmm.
champion in those
Yep.
days, spinning.
Mm-hmm.
I took three pictures, clack, 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 the guy crashing. Then I went to a car magazine. I sold them the pictures. Then I took the published pictures. And then I went to Vibraciones, which was a rock and roll magazine. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
listen, I'm a published author and I have really good cameras and I speak English. I can speak to the bands and help your reporteros.
Mm.
So I got hired. So I loved everything that was imagery, art, all of that. I go into advertising, and that's what got me. Then what got me working was
Yes.
the weirdest thing ever. Um, because I read like Time Magazine, the New York Times, all of that because of my dad.
Mm-hmm.
I was very up on advertising itself in the US. And I was in a class with a guy called Pepe Muguerza, who was my first boss, and
Mm-hmm.
we remained friends until he died. So Muguerza is saying something or other, and I annoyed him. Like I said, no, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. Blah blah blah. So it goes like that, really diplomatic. So he goes in the middle of class. Listen, you, the smartass,
Uh,
come on over on Monday. I got a job for you. And then he goes, if I had to tell you who I am, where I work, and what the office is located, you're not really worth it. So yeah, you're Pepe Muguerza. You work for Publinsa,
mm-hmm.
which is Kenya and Eckert, and you're in Parque Las Naciones. So Metro Moncloa or Metro something or other, San Bernardo. Is that good enough? So he goes, be there at 8. So I was there at 8, and then they said, you're a pain in the ass, and we're selling this car exactly to people like you. And I go, so what's the car? It's a Renault 5 TS. So what is TS? Total Sport. On a Renault 5? Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
So that was my very first assignment ever, was to launch a car as a creative, which is something most people wait 30 years to be able to do. So
Sure.
I was
That's
lucky.
the culmination of success, so to speak, right? Is
Yeah,
that
no, no,
you
I couldn't believe it. I loved it. Also, we were doing something with Lintas, which was
Mhm.
the other, it was a creative advertising agency. And I didn't have any qualms. I mean, I come from the background, so I didn't have any qualms in calling the CEO. So I call him up one day. Listen, so I'm so and so, and I need these materials, whatever, whatever. And he says, sure, I'll take care of it. So Pepe comes in and he says, did you just call whatever his name was
Right.
that guy? He was the CEO of Lintas. So what's the big deal? He says, you don't think it is a big deal for somebody who's 22 to call the CEO of a company? Nope. Okay. And then the final straw came in. Some guys walk in. and it was the governor of Puerto Rico, Fernando
Mm.
Romero Barceló.
Okay.
So he looks at me and he goes, Marcelo. So, hombre, ¿cómo estás? No sé
Mm.
qué. So my boss comes in and he goes, you know the governor? I said, no, no, no. The governor actually knows me. I'm a friend of his son, Fernando. We go to class together.
Mm.
Great. You're assigned. So I got the Puerto Rico Economic Development Administration internationally as a creative. So that made my creative job, so to speak. And then the rest, like I've traveled all over, lived all
Mhm.
over, but it was a series, I think, of coincidences or,
Mm.
challenges
Or
that
right places at right times, maybe more so than coincidence, because it sounds like you brought a lot to the table. Like, for instance, your relationship, you were able to bring the guts to be able to make the phone call at 22 and the expertise of knowing whoever the dude was that said, hey, if you don't know who I am and you don't know where I am or what I do. So let me ask you, where did that come from? The sense of preparation, all that sort of thing. You knew the guts to be able. Was that a family trait, or was that uniquely you to be able to do that at
I,
22?
a lot of it, to be honest, is my dad. My dad
Okay.
was never scared of just making a phone call. My mom was never like that. My sister was never like that.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad was pretty much like that. And then, so I
Nice.
grew up in an atmosphere that basically didn't hold me back.
Ah, okay.
So I didn't have any problems with that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, at some point, I remember when I was 16, get this. I
Right.
tell Mike, we were sitting around doing nothing, Mike's
Mm-hmm.
house. And I go, you know what? If I don't die rich, which is a huge probability, I'm going to have an interesting life. So I decided that I would take all of the opportunities headed my way, as long as, they made sense and,
Right.
stuff like that. I mean, I'm not going to do anything stupid,
Mm-hmm.
but that came from that,
Mm-hmm.
from saying, I really want an interesting life. Because if I'm going to die poor, and it was a strong possibility that I would die poor, why not? I mean, most people do.
Yeah,
I might
that's
as well
exactly
live
right.
interesting
Mm-hmm.
because, like, else, what are you going to do?
So, what would you say was it doesn't have to be the situation or opportunity, but what was one of the more, as you got comfortable and started to accelerate, whether it's FCB or McCann or Siboney or wherever, like opportunities that would have really surprised a younger version of you that you wound up in navigating this specific piece of business or speaking, kind of like what happened at 22? Were there any situations as you were going or ascending upward that surprised you? I can't believe I'm in this situation, in a good way, I mean.
Or even in a bad way
Well,
sometimes.
that
But
too, but
anyway,
it's a different question.
who knows, right? I'm not going to go into that,
I'll
even
save
though
that one for later.
the other two witnesses to that are dead.
Okay.
Juan and Mike
All
are
right. All
dead,
right. Then we're
and
all good.
Roberto's dead too. So
We're
like,
good.
fine, I can talk about it. But no, to be honest,
Uh-huh.
the I think the entire thing was
Mhm.
one situation that I would have never, like, when I was sitting in a little cubicle in Kenny and Eckert in Madrid,
Mhm.
in Parque de las
Mhm.
Naciones. Yes, I was doing copy, I was doing creative strategies back then, like acting more like a creative director than a
Right.
copywriter, but still a copywriter.
Mhm.
I would have never imagined that my number one break would be creative director of the second largest agency in Santo Domingo.
Mm.
Really, so that I launched Lada automobiles. I
Mhm.
would have never imagined that. I mean, like,
Mhm.
there's many things where you say, boy, some people really, really have trusted me. They have deposited a huge amount of trust. And the corollary to that is I can't let them down.
Ah, okay. Okay.
So if you trusted me to launch this car,
Mhm.
then I got to do the utmost to launch the car in a successful way.
Mhm.
So I guess that would be one of those situations where I said, boy, that is truly not me at 19.
Right.
At 19, I I didn't care at
Mm-hmm.
all. Like, at 20, I didn't care. At 20, I was Franco was dying in Spain. At 20, I was throwing bricks and other stuff at the cops,
Mm-hmm.
running from the cops, studying, being, the counter terrorist, I guess. I don't know. But the change, um, I guess the change was interesting because I did feel like a sense of debt to people, and
Got it.
both to clients and to employees, people who were
Mm-hmm.
working either with me or for me. So I don't know. There was a moment in which Food and Belding decided that they were
Right.
going to create a media unit. It
Mm-hmm.
was called True North.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
True North, by the way, was a pain in the ass because
Why?
I had to go to New York every 2 weeks from anywhere I was, meaning I would be in South Africa somewhere in the
Right.
middle of nowhere. And then, oh my God, I need to fly to New York.
Why were they
Yes,
dragging you back to New York?
because we had the meetings in New York
Oh, well, you
every
had to
two
be there.
weeks. And my international guys, Mike Gorman
Mm-hmm.
from London, he had to go.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Pointer from Hong Kong, he had to go. A couple of
Mm-hmm.
other people. So I brought my little international posse and the whole
Mm-hmm.
thing, right? But one of the telling things, there was a guy there. I can't remember his name, and he basically leadered the meetings. He was like a motivational leader kind of
Okay.
thing. Very nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
Something Neil, something O'Neill, something like that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Great guy, absolutely great. And one of the typical questions to break the ice was, like, what do you most feel proud of in your career? And remember, my career was mid-career. I was only 40,
Oh, I
and
was
I
going
was
to say,
already
yeah.
head of media worldwide, the
Yes.
entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but like from, the last 20 years. So a lot of people were saying bullshit. I remember one guy, I'll say his name. Fuck. Larry Blasius.
Wait a
You
minute. I
probably met
clapped.
him.
Say his name again.
Larry Blasius.
Thank you.
So Larry, who's
Hey,
a great guy.
Larry.
No, you probably have met him. He worked for Magna.
Mm,
So Larry goes, like whatever, whatever. And what
mhm,
motivated me was seeing all these reps with really expensive shoes, the money, whatever, whatever.
mhm,
And I thought for a while, and I said, I'm going to be totally honest on this. So I said, the one thing I'm proud of, really proud of in my career is I have helped a lot of people who work with me or under me, if you look at it,
mhm,
improve their lives.
mhm,
A lot of people who were working with me were then media directors of large agencies or even heads of large
mhm.
agencies. I guess one of the proudest ones, Lidia Suarez, who is now the CEO of Dentsu in Mexico.
Mm,
She was going to get fired from Siboney in Miami. She came
mhm,
over. She said, "Listen, I understand that you're coming back, and you everybody says you walk on water. You have this fantastic deal, whatever.
mhm,
Yeah, it is true.
mhm.
You know. So what's your problem? Well, I'm gonna get fired. I need the work, and I just need work, and I understand you have room for an assistant. So I go, yeah, absolutely. And why do they want to fire you anyway? Well, I'm Cuban. I'm loudmouthed. I'm a lesbian. So okay, I the loudmouth worries me, but we reach an agreement. I said, Lydia,
Mhm,
whatever you do, any screw up once, okay? Then if you screw up, we'll talk about it,
mhm,
and then we'll remedy it, and then you can screw up somewhere else, no problem. But don't screw up twice the same way. And she's very smart. Yes,
mhm,
yes, she is loudmouth Cuban.
mhm.
Yes, her skin is like fluorescent. She used to call herself like a fluorescent too because she's so white, right?
Oh my God, so white that she's clear.
But really smart,
Mhm,
hardworking,
mhm,
committed, loyal. I mean, so it was great. And then I feel proud because, like I tried to teach her as much as possible. Then when I
mhm,
left Food and Building, she was poached. I can't remember by whom. And then I think McCann. And then they offered her another job in Mexico. And I said, hey, that was my big break, man. Mexico. It was great. Go there. Just be careful, you know, because who you are. It's a very Catholic country. So, but she did. She went there. She did fantastically. And then, like about 2 years ago, more or less, she sent me a message saying, I want you to know first, I'm going to be named CEO of Dentsu Advertising. And, I feel very grateful for the opportunity in that day. So that is the number one driver for me. I need to, not let down people who trusted me, I think.
Oh, so I remember from a personal vantage point. So I'm not Cuban. I'm not fluorescent. I'm more red than white. But I was gonna say,
And you're not loudmouth.
and I'm not. Well, I have a loud voice, but not loudmouth. So right, and I'm gay. And I remember when I first came, I was with. I had gone to work for Univision, and that was in 2006. So this was not in the 50s, right? And so I was still back then, and that, I mean, my God, that's not even 20 years ago, that I was still a little shy in regards to who I was in that
Yep,
way,
yep.
right? I really was kind of quiet. And I remember somebody who I'll leave their name out very early on was like, oh, I wouldn't make a big deal out of that, because you probably would want to keep that quiet. And blah, blah. So I did. So I did. And I just remember there was a sense of comfort with you. And so what I want to ask you was, were you always inclusive?
Yes.
Has nothing to do with the top three or firing somebody after a second offense or whatever. What made that so for you?
I have no clue, but one of the things
Hmm.
I grew up also in a very liberal atmosphere in the university.
Okay,
And
got it.
I still kid around with a lot of people that
Hmm.
I am financially responsible. So I'm financially on the right. For
Hmm.
example,
Ah, I
I,
didn't.
I own
Okay,
3 homes and I don't owe anything on them.
yeah, better than
Period.
me. So there you go, right?
So I am very financially responsible, but
Mm.
I am socially totally irresponsible.
Okay.
I am as liberal as they come. So
Mm.
one of the things, and I remember this in high school in Puerto Rico, there was a kid, I'm not going to name him. This time I'm not going to mention names, but he was evidently gay. Oh, and then there was another guy
Hmm.
who is the only other person I've ever met who said, I have this dream, and then he made it.
Mm.
And I will tell you who he is. So Carlos
Hmm.
Picon, he became the head of Greek antiquities at the MoMA.
Oh
And
my
the same
God.
way that
Yeah.
I had a dream of being
Hmm.
the worldwide media director,
Right.
right? And my password for 5 years
Hmm.
was international media director. So every morning I had to type international media director to remember that's what I want.
And that's who you
Carlos,
became.
exactly. So Carlos had the same dream. Carlos wanted that.
Right.
But I remember people in high school were saying, oh, they're gay. And they didn't say they're gay. They say,
Yeah,
otherwise.
right. I understand.
And and I was it always shocked me because I said, but they're not bad people.
Hmm.
There are bad people in my school, Catholic school from a wealthy
Sure.
neighborhood in
Yeah.
Miramar, whatever,
Mhm.
whatever. There are bad people. I've seen people pull switchblades on other people.
Mm.
Gayness, not gay, has nothing to do with it. It just, it isn't true. So the moment you see something is not true at that level,
Hmm.
then you got to question everything that is being said about that. And
Hmm.
I did early on. So
Hmm.
by 14, I was already absolutely okay with any idea. Like, you were gay, you were gay. Like, so what? Now,
You helped
I
me with that. And I remember you made me feel really comfortable. And I only bring this up not to sound self-serving. I say it because when you talked about I feel responsible to help people and not let them down, and you spoke of that woman, and you said that you just said that so matter of factly. It's like I just find that very positive because I'm curious. You wouldn't know the answer of how many other people that you helped just with that. I still think, but hey, by the way, I still think it's a little harsh that you let people go after their second offense. I think it should be three. But hey, that's you. You can't be perfect. But I always the other it's just if I had held on to the belief of what somebody told me, who I looked up to, um, that it was like, I better just keep quiet about that, I probably would be a different person. And and so I'm always grateful to people that enable personalities to come through. You know what I mean? And so
I
from a business sense, not just in a life sense, that's important enough. But in a
No, but
business
it is.
sense,
I
really
mean, you
behave
think
that
about
way.
you for a moment.
Yeah.
Let's think you're in the middle of Univision, which
Mhm.
is it's really classic conservative,
Oh yeah.
Latin.
Oh yeah.
Let's say for a moment that you don't live who you are.
Hmm.
Dude, you'd be absolutely miserable.
Hmm.
You would be
Oh
because
yeah.
you'd be hiding things from everybody all the time. Now you're
Hmm.
not. You
That's
look
it.
at you, you say, if you say John Duffin to anybody who knows you,
Right.
everybody has the same thing. He's a great guy. He's a happy camper.
Uh,
He
Thank you.
exudes happiness. Why?
Right.
Because you don't have any problems with it. And the
Mhm.
people, honestly, those of us who, consider you our friends, love you, whatever,
Thank you.
we, it's a non-issue. I just
Hmm.
do not see why that is
Hmm.
an issue. And I've never ever seen it. Actually, um, I I have two or three, people I know, like in the heavy metal industry and all of that. And they tend to use, like the other words
I
for
understand.
gays and all of that. And I tell them like napalm. One of them is napalm. Napalm.
Hmm.
How is that your business? Seriously.
Hmm.
What do you care? Do they cost you money? Do they harm you? Do they do this? Do they no?
Hmm.
So what the fuck?
Right.
What is your problem?
Hmm.
And yeah, I've always been very, very inclusive because
Hmm.
I've always believed that everybody has rights.
Hmm.
And those rights, and our constitution is going to get trampled one of these days. But meanwhile, it still says
But
life,
hopefully,
liberty, and the pursuit of
meanwhile,
happiness.
right, and hopefully that escapes the trampling. But that's another conversation for another day. I hope. I hope. But that's why I like people that see things like that tend to make, at least I'll speak for me, make me a little bit braver. And then you get to do more because you are and you take more risks. Let me ask you in another direction. I've known you. I mean, look, you brought up the photography story. I know you still as a photographer, in addition, that you still use those chops, the creative side. You still have the chops. Which do you see yourself more as? Uh, Business or creative?
I'm definitely a marketing guy,
Okay.
business.
Okay.
The creative part,
Mhm.
I love it. I, I've narrowed it down to I only enjoy, and I'm really good at design type of photography, by the way, just to get that
Wait a
out of
minute.
the
I'm
way.
really
I'm
good at the what photography?
like design type of
Thank you.
photography,
I understand.
but
Sorry. Yep.
so I'm good at it, but like I don't like it. What
Okay.
I like
Hmm.
is people photography. And
Hmm.
that is, if I were to define myself as a
Hmm.
photographer, it would be a portrait and people photography. Like, for example, last Wednesday, I went to a dive bar, the typical dirty bar that the
Yeah.
bathrooms, you have to use gloves because, like, you don't want to be there. It's
Ah,
called Kill Your Idol. It's really
ah.
nice. And the guy who organizes Wednesday night Munch salons, he's one of the two Surinamis that I know. And both of them, by the way, work in the same place.
Mm.
And yeah, the other one is Danny Blade. So Munch, like he has this thing. So bands come in Wednesday night. It's a really
Mhm.
great event. I love it. It's very relaxed and all of that. And I was seeing another photographer taking pictures. And they say photographers are like spiders, they don't mix. Actually, the other photographer didn't acknowledge me one time, not even one time. He didn't even
Mm.
say hi, which is amazing. But I was looking at the pictures in the back of the camera and I was struck at the difference in styles. My style is people,
Mm.
just people. It's
Mhm.
very, and I almost always take black and white
Mhm.
in rock because I think it brings a rawness.
Okay.
But by and large, and who knows? I mean, I might retire after like a year from now,
Mhm.
2 years, I don't know.
Mhm.
But by and large, I see myself more as a marketing guy,
Mhm.
business guy,
Mhm.
than let's say a photographer.
So let me ask you this part because business, I would say the photog like as you said, people photography, dive bars, you know, heavy metal bands would typically the cliche would possibly be a younger person's sport. Business to me, from my own experience, and I was grateful to guest on your podcast where we talked about business, the cliche being that it's a younger person's sport. What have you found? What have you seen? Not necessarily how it impacted you at the time, but I'm more interested at this point in what have you seen, especially when you realized that that was so. You know,
Well, I don't
and
know
not
that
to
that is
break
so.
anybody's bubble here, but it is so. So what I'd ask is from your experience, how has that impacted you then and now?
I So that is a super interesting thing.
Hmm.
As I told you before when we are talking, I am in the middle of launching my fourth startup.
How about that, right? Yep.
So this one is called Hotel Upsell, and
Hmm.
we all think this is going to be a big company. But get this, at 67, which is like 3 years ago, I created a startup called Assistica MD, which used algorithms, telemedicine, and AI to
Hmm.
basically treat visitors in Latin America, people who were traveling in Latin America.
Hmm.
And I had an exit. I actually sold my side of the company to another company. So formally, I have an exit. Not a huge amount of money, but it was an okay amount of money. Now, I don't have any problems with age. I just don't have it.
Right.
Except my knee every so often, eh. And then the trainers at the gym tell me, stop doing that. You're doing stupid stuff. Like, like stop it. But it's the only thing, right?
Mhm.
So one of the things that I found out, and I'm saying that also because I'm doing some basic research in preparation for a project.
Good.
So get this: the average age of an entrepreneur
Hmm.
in the United States is 45. It is not 25.
Hmm.
It is 45.
Why would you think
50,
that age is so?
well, that age has, and probably even the 50-year-olds,
Right.
actually, like 50% of the
Hmm.
startups are, like 51%,
Hmm.
are initiated by people who are over 50. And I think it's a confluence of more a few things. By the time you're 50, you know a lot. You
Hmm.
know a lot of people. You've experienced a lot of stuff. If you're smart, you have also studied the experiences, and
Hmm.
the experience became expertise. You have developed a body of knowledge.
Hmm.
Uh, you have some money, and you get fired because you're
Hmm.
50,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
it's a confluence of things. It might be that instead of many people, probably instead of saying, I'm going to send out my resume, see if I get hired, many people will say, I'll start a business. And many do. I mean, I was just talking to a fractional CFO yesterday
Right.
who is also 50, and he's in the process of buying, he's a CFO. So
Hmm.
he's in the process of buying an accounting firm to base his fractional CFO work. He's over 50 and he's just
Hmm.
doing this. So that is that. And then there was another really interesting piece of research from the Harvard Business Review by a guy called, I think, Pierre Azoulay, and three other guys. So this guy found that the highest correlation with success on entrepreneurship was age, and it peaks at 50. 50 has the highest correlation with success and with what he called high growth startups. So I I don't think it is essentially a young man's game. There's
Hmm.
a lot of people who are young for real, and then they startup, and then they have no clue, none.
Right.
They don't have a clue about business,
Hmm.
the actual business of running a business,
Hmm.
which is not something you are born knowing. I mean, you have to learn those things. They don't have a clue about hiring people, so they hire people they like as opposed to people that are going to get the job done.
Hmm.
They have this weird idea because they haven't seen that much. They have this weird idea of product fit. Like, so they come up with an idea, and maybe there's 52 other companies that do it, and they don't study it. it's essentially one day I was in a group and this girl who was like 21 comes over to me and she goes, "I'm a life coach." I go, "Yeah,
Oh
that's
my
great.
God. It's
You're
like, so you'll
21."
teach me what? Um,
So I go, "Okay, so listen, at 20, I stole a yacht with two of my friends who are both dead, by the way, and we took it to Africa for a week. We did incredible things in the yacht. It was a 60-footer. We stole it out of Malaga. Belonged to the father of one of the guys. Came back. That was at 20. So you're
so
21. What
wouldn't you
have you?
see it if it's a 60-foot yacht and it's like, well, where is it? It's missing. Wouldn't you just see it because it's
Well,
60 foot big? Um,
well, he was in Madrid. The owner
oh,
was in
all right.
Madrid.
All
This
right.
is in
That's okay
Malaga.
then. Now I
But
got
I told the girls, like, okay, so I did that at 20. And that
you.
was one of the many things I've done before
Right.
20, right? I stole a yacht,
Hmm.
went to Africa for a week. What have you done?
Hmm.
So that's the
Graduated
problem
high
with
school.
the younger entrepreneurs. They
Hmm.
they still don't know enough. So, it's a process of discovery, but the
Hmm.
problem is if you are in the process, like I did, in the process of discovery from inside a company, you get to
Hmm.
see more. I was also lucky. I dealt with everybody who was fantastic.
Hmm.
I mean, dude, I launched L'Oreal. I
Hmm.
launched Diet Coke. I launched McDonald's. I mean, I was dealing with
The
people who were
biggest of the
like
big.
brighter. I mean, like these are
Hmm.
bright people, and they
Hmm.
took the time to actually teach me. But I learned. I don't have any problems with learning. So in dealing with those kind of people, I mean, how can you not know, right?
Hmm.
So when you decide to open up your own business at, 55 or 60,
Yeah.
you certainly know a lot. And not because I was born knowing or
Hmm.
whatever. I was lucky. I was trained by like the best of the best. You deal with people who actually, for example, one of my clients who was the CEO of Coca-Cola,
Hmm.
he leaves Coca-Cola, he buys Helados Holanda, pays, I don't know, 60 million or whatever.
Right.
And so the first thing everybody says, where did he get 60 million? I mean, that's a huge amount of money
Hmm.
in those days. So he borrowed whatever. Then he sells it to Unilever for like 10 times as much. So
Hmm.
I asked him one day, we're having lunch, and I go like, why? Why ice cream? Gave me an entire lesson. How it is manufactured, the profit margins, the difficulties in moving the thing, blah, blah,
Hmm.
blah. So I learned everything like in a single lunch, probably all of the underpinnings
Hmm.
of the ice cream business and why Unilever fits and whatever. And I've been lucky like that.
So when you look at people, if like you my four as you talked about, hey, I'm about my fourth, you know what I mean, my fourth different entrepreneurial venture, major. And so launch, I guess, it's not entrepreneurial, launch. So what do you look for in people knowing what you know? When you said, hey, I've got the expert, you know what I mean, the expertise that turns to experience, been fired, been around, have remained teachable. You don't want to let people down. What do you look for in other people?
Well, if I am associating myself with them,
Yeah.
you're looking for a good balance of passion and knowledge
Okay.
so that, you know, they have the passion for it and hopefully they have the knowledge on how to build the company.
Hmm.
You're also looking for some sort to be really pedestrian about it. You're also looking for some sort of financial independence because we're going to have to work without a salary for 6 months.
Okay.
So how are you going to make your living?
Hmm.
So the very first one that I got involved in, uh, it was called Asado a Casa, and it was set up by a guy who was one of the managers at Gracianos, and it was a
Hmm.
food the delivery company. And Armando, the CEO, had all of that.
Okay.
But I don't know, there was a certain flaw to it, and he got into a lot of problems with the guy who was the CTO.
Hmm.
So the whole thing just imploded. I left at some point.
Hmm.
So that was my big failure. And then Adi, when we launched CEO Analytics, which was a research company
Yeah.
using disassociated conjoint analysis and a whole bunch of highfalutin things. So Adi has exactly that. Adi has temperament. He is independently wealthy. He had his own business.
Mm-hmm.
He knew, and he had the passion to know.
Mm-hmm.
Adi really had a passion for research. He truly believes in it. So we gave it a try for like 4 years. We finally closed the company. It wasn't going anywhere. But, we walked away with money. I mean, we didn't go bankrupt or whatever. We actually walked away with money.
Nice.
But, we had to close it. Assistica was the same thing. Shai, who was the guy who brought me into the group,
Mm-hmm.
uh, he's not so much on the passion side, but he's not that much. But man, he is passionate about people. He likes to help. He's a great guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was working for the company from which I created the startup, and he loves to teach. So he taught me everything about the medical insurance business.
Mm.
And now it's these guys that I'm
Right.
doing, upsell. Uh, they're bright.
Mm-hmm.
They're bright. They don't have any problems. They have an ongoing company, so they don't have to worry about money. And they also feel passionate about the technology of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they saw my vision, but they're very passionate about the technology of it. So it's a mixture of it has to be a balance, I guess, of passion for the product and intellectual capacity. You have to be smart. You have to realize what you're getting into, and you got to realize at some point that maybe there is no market fit. Could be.
That's funny. That's one of the things that was jumping at me when you were describing it. None of that sounded like any sort of hard feelings. It just saying it's the realization. And I really do believe that's where experience is a spectacular teacher in that you just knew you see CEO analytics and you're like, no, we walked away with money, but we knew we had to shut it down.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a sad story, and it wasn't, you know what I mean? It's that sense of being able to make experienced decisions across the board. Let me ask you, what would you say has changed the most about you as a business leader from that brash 22-year-old who knew the governor of Puerto Rico? No, they know me, to calling CEOs, to what has changed the most about you at this point in terms
It's
of your
funny.
own leadership, right?
So I'm going to open up my kimono
Okay.
for real. This is the most
That's a
real.
great expression. Oh my God.
Yes.
Yikes.
No, this is going to be the most real, sincere,
Mhm.
open thing I'm going to say. When
Fantastic.
I launched Diet Coke,
Mhm.
okay, I went to the Coca-Cola building, and Alejandro Gonzalez, who was the CMO of Coca-Cola, said, "Oh, we just invested the entire budget of Coca-Cola, which is huge, in 10 massive programs with Siempre en Domingo. What do you think?" I
Mhm.
was brand new in the country, brand new at McCann, didn't know shit,
Mhm.
didn't know Alejandro, didn't know anything, but I know marketing.
Mhm.
So I said, that is the most stupid idea I have ever heard in my life. And I'll tell you why. Blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
So he calls security and they escort me out of the building. Then I get a call from a mythical guy called Bill Lynch, who was the worldwide media director
Mhm.
for Coca-Cola. And we became really good friends. He died in a boating accident.
Mhm.
So and he was a real son of a bitch, by the way.
Mhm.
But we became friends. And he called me up and he says, Marcelo, please be human. And I go like, what does that even mean?
Okay.
Says, you cannot insult Alejandro in his own company. I mean, like, but he's stupid. So he goes, I know he's stupid, but please be human.
Mhm.
The one change that I guess has happened is I have softened. I am more mellow.
Mhm.
I'm more human. And I absolutely, utterly hate being that.
So you answered my next question. You're also a mind reader because that was the question was, and are you happy about the change?
No, I made much more money. I had
Mhm.
much more influence.
Mhm.
I had much more fun when I
Mhm.
was a total inhuman animal. I, I really did. And, it's too late.
Mhm.
It is what it is.
Right.
I have followed people's advice many
Mhm.
times and being
Mhm.
human. And no, And this is as honest as anybody's going to
I love
be
that.
in any podcast.
I love
And
it.
no, I don't like it.
All right. So I ask everybody the same question as the one more question, unless I forget. And I've done that too. Don't get old, by the way. Right. But I was going to say the question, as you talk about pulling back the, I can't even say it without laughing. But the opportunity to be fully authentic. What does that mean to you? You gave a very, very real example right there. What does authenticity mean to you now?
Wow.
Goes to that
So
22-year-old. What's it mean to you now?
I don't know. I
Mhm,
honestly, and I'm
mhm,
going to be absolutely honest, I
mhm,
truly don't know because many times I behave in a way that I know is the civilized expectation of my behavior, while feeling at the same way, I should really stand up and strangle this person. So one of my true authentic moments.
Yeah.
I'm at Bar Nancy
Mhm.
1 week before I turned 69, meaning a year and a half ago,
Okay, great.
July
hmm
last year. And there's a big ruckus outside. And
hmm
some guy has a knife and he's threatening somebody, whatever,
Huh.
whatever. And so I went over to the guy. I was helping the promoter. Uh, and so, like I was just, I go over to the guy and say, listen, stop that shit.
hmm
You're going to get hurt or you're going to wind up in a cop car, whatever.
hmm
Remember, I'm 69.
hmm
So I took the knife away. Just like
Oh my God.
that was an authentic moment for
All
me.
set.
You see a fight, you
hmm
walk into the fight, you know. But right now, being authentic to me means, I guess in my photography, I'm very authentic.
hmm
I only take the pictures that I want.
hmm
If I'm in an event and somebody goes like this, I'll tell them, I'm not going to take that picture. Why? Because I don't feel like it. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So in my photography, it is the one place where I feel that I am truly authentic. Some of the pictures are raw. Some of the pictures are like they're powerful. I mean, and some of them are funny. Like I don't know. Like there's a picture of Andy. He's a guitar player at I can't remember the name of the band, but he's a really nice
hmm
guy. He's always smiling, and he's hugging another friend of ours, Macronium, who cuts himself on stage, right? And then they hug, and then Andy realizes that this is real blood he's hugging. So he goes like, so I had the three pictures are like Andy going like this, Andy going like this, and like that. So,
So
but
maybe
the photography is authentic.
So maybe it's the choice of actually doing or not doing in your world. Like right now, that the sense is I don't do what I don't want to do, meaning with the photography. I'm not taking if I decide to walk past you and do that. It's like, no, I don't feel like it. Whereas you are in the do part willing to take a knife off of somebody, which is more than I would do. And obviously, folks, I know this has very little to do with business, but to me, it has everything to do with it because that's where it's like you get to choose your authenticity. I think that's something cool about having experience and going past the 50 plus or me 60 plus. You know what I mean? That it's like that sense of being able to be okay with your choices. They don't all need to be the right choices, but you're okay with them. And
That's a great insight, though.
mm,
That's a really great insight where you can choose your authenticity.
yeah, you helped me, man. You just so vividly described it. I'm like, oh, that actually makes sense, and it's a much better like when you said I even loved it when you said I don't know. I loved all of that whole arc, right? Because you don't have to. But to me, you choose your authentic, and I can take that away with me and feel great about it. Marcelo, this is the easiest question. Well, for me, will be the one I hope you say yeah to, which is this is the one is will you come back?
Oh, of
Because
course.
I think
I
we
would love to.
barely scratched the surface. In my mind, in my world, thank you for saying that because I'd have been heartbroken if you said no. I
No,
actually
man,
had somebody say
anytime.
that one time. Um, they were kidding, but
Anytime.
still. Great, because the travel part, those choices, those sorts of things, the photography, the music, the culture, the pop culture, all of the things, like there's so many beautiful, jagged pieces, and I think they're great. And that's where, like I said, I get braver around people like you. And I said it earlier in another context, but I do. And so, Marcelo Salup, thank you so much for showing up for me today, man, for part one. I really, really appreciate it.
John,
I feel completely energized.
It's been a real pleasure anytime you want. And
Great.
I guess the chances of me going to Philly are like nil.
Well, then maybe I go to Spain, and
Or
we'll
you-
save
or
that
to
for the next
Miami.
episode, right?
Or come on over to Miami, and then we'll have dinner and stuff.
I miss Miami. And that to me seems like a great, easier leap. I miss it terribly. So the best way to reach you via whether it's effective marketing, whether it is link, what are the best ways? And folks, you don't have to give me the www, but obviously your LinkedIn profile will be here. Where else would you like us to find you?
The easiest one to remember is msalup at Hotmail.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the easiest one
Okay.
to remember.
We'll list all of that in this so that people can make their choice, because yeah, there's a lot that people can get from this, and you just helped me today tremendously. Feel like that there's so much more left in the tank, and that means a lot to me, man. So, it's your
Means
energy.
a lot to me too, So
Beautiful.
big hug.
Marcelo Salup. Oh my God, absolutely. Un abrazo. Thank you so much for showing up for me today. I'm very
Thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
100%. Folks, you've just heard another episode of Your Message Received. Keep liking, keep watching, keep sharing, and we will keep driving content through your front door. John Duffin here with Duffin Media. Have a great rest of the day, and we will absolutely talk soon. Be well. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And now, making its way across the finish line, Your Message Received has been a production of Duffin Media.